almost done. Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be back right now because we're at the last phase of Starfire. I am so excited for this cosplay build. The literally last thing is the shoes, which are so very iconic. They go up all the way to her middle thigh, which is an insane task. Which is why I originally was going to leave it to kind of last minute near the con coming October. But I realized, we already started this project. I want to keep the momentum going, and I'll do them now, and then when I get a little bit more fit during the summer, again, taking something in is a hell of a lot easier than letting something out. So we're gonna try it. So first things first, I went to DSW with my friend, and we were able to find these shoes by Stephen Madden. Now, I don't know when these came out, but I saw them and I was like, this is the perfect base. So obviously I'm not a cobbler of any shape or form, so whatever I was going to do it either on top of just a Vans slip-on or something of that nature to give me that bottom portion so it'll be nice and comfy to walk around the con. And I found this, and it's essentially like a sock. So when I put it on, I'm going to see if I can get this high kick going so you guys can see. So it fits me like a sock right at the shoe point here, so it'll be super easy to cover this part of the shoe and go all the way up the thigh. So super excited to give this a go. We're going to use the same fabric that we used for the shirt and the skirt because we got to match just right. So let's get into it and see how it turns out.
So first thing we're going to do is actually create a form or a cast of our leg with the same technique that we did with our wrist bracers. First off, make sure that you're wearing the shoes that you're going to be using for your actual cosplay boot. And then what you're going to do is, after you saran wrap your entire leg, make sure you get as high up the thigh as possible. We don't want tape sticking to our skin and pulling on our hair. And then putting on painter's tape. It's a lot easier to manage than any other kind of tape I found when doing this process. I also originally tried doing the whole loop around with just one piece of tape, but realized that could possibly cut off your circulation. So I just did half circle small pieces first along the top and then on the bottom. And then make sure that you, one, get high up on your thigh, two, that you flex your knee, because again, you want the fabric to be tight around your leg, but you want to still have that enough stretch so that you can actually walk around, and then make sure to also cover up the actual shoe. And so then after you're done with that, you're going to cut very carefully down the middle of the back where you're going to probably have the seam of the boot. At least that's where I'm going to put it. So make sure to be cut very carefully, that you're not going to actually cut yourself. And then when you get down to wherever your shoe height might be, is to not cut that either. That would spell a disaster for sure. Now, once you have this step completed, what you're going to want to do is take some printer paper or anything to kind of stuff this with, and then put it back together just so you have a nice 3D form that you can work with when you start to lay out your fabric. So what I did is I actually took printer paper and kind of crumpled it up and then taped the seam back together. I found it a lot easier to put the tape length like across it rather than vertically along the seam. That way you just cover more area and it actually sticks a little bit better. One thing definitely to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that the seams line up. Again, that way it's an exact replica of the 3D model of your leg. And again, it doesn't have to be smooth, it just has to be a generalized form for you to put the fabric over. So don't worry if it's like, it's not smooth, it doesn't look like a leg. It will shortly, I promise you. So the next step, once you're done with that, you're going to cover it with the fabric. Again, I used the same fabric that I used for the shirt and the skirt of the outfit, because again, completely uniform cosplay. And then you're going to take sewing pins. These things, you will probably prick yourself. I lost count of how many times I did. And then when you're doing that, you want to hold the fabric in place when you stretch it to tightly form around the leg. So unlike when you were doing the shirt and the skirt, where we didn't stretch the fabric, in this case we want to, because we need it to be tight and hold to our leg. Don't want it to fall or anything like that. So as you go along pinning, you're actually probably going to be doing a lot of repinning as well. So a lot of the time I just kept taking it out, seeing if the fabric would actually hold its own over the form without that extra pressure down into the tape and the stuffing, until essentially you just have a severed leg in your crafting area. Uh, and so now that it's a little bit more put together, you see the shape, you still have that extra fabric. Again, it's easier to cut away than it is to add on. So I realized it's going to be a lot easier to visualize if I cut off that extra fabric. So I pulled it behind it after doing the seam in the back where it's actually going to be sewn, readjusting the edges. That way, again, I could see it a little bit better, and then cut that excess fabric off. And it's like, oh, look, there's actually something here that you can work with. So once you have that, you're going to take out those extra pins that are holding it down, so you see that it can hold its own shape and form, and then readjust the pins along that seam so that they're parallel uh, against the actual form itself. The best way I can describe it is you're going to only have the pin keeping the fabric together. It's not going to go through any of the tape or any of the stuffing that you might have there. It's just going to be along the line that you are actually going to sew on. You're going to see later that I'm only going to hand sew because you can't exactly put a whole form into a machine, and we're going to get a little bit onto that later. So again, just making sure that your needles or your pins, whatever you want to call them, line up right where you're going to be doing all the sewing, and the exact cutting are parallel to it, as you can see here. Cut away that extra fabric. What I did was I actually left about 1/8 of an inch seam. It doesn't need to be exact, it's just so that when you do this rough sew, as I'm going to call it here, is so that when that thread, when you loop it through and pull it tight so that the fabric is actually held together, there isn't a lot of bunched up fabric over inside of the looped thread that you have there. So eventually we are going to put this through the machine. Again, as I said before, when I have my exact measurements, as the con gets a little bit closer, we'll run it through so it'll hold the fabric a lot tighter, and it will be the correct dimensions that we need it to be. Another thing while doing this is because it is a time-consuming step, obviously it's quite a bit of length that you need to sew here, is that you don't have to do the bottom of the shoe because what we're going to do, we obviously don't want fabric to encompass the bottom of the show, even though we created the form for it and we created the fabric for it. That's just so we have extra to either sew onto the canvas portion top of the shoe, or I haven't decided yet, I might just contact cement it around that edge at the bottom and cover it with foam later to match the rest of the trim. But the main reason why you don't want fabric on the bottom of shoes, because you're going to lose all that traction that a sole provides, and you'll be slipping and sliding all over the place. Now that we're in the home stretch of getting this project done, all you have to do is kind of cut along the top so it's nice and straight and even along those pins that you put earlier, or you can just do a hem over to make sure the fabric doesn't fray. Take out all of those annoying little pins, and then you can finally take your boot off of the form, and then of course try it on because you want to make sure that it fits just perfectly. And as you can see here, it fits really well. I'm so happy how it came out. It's not tight that it cuts off my circulation, and it fits actually quite snugly, but it doesn't fall down in any way, shape, or form. So the next step would be to actually create the other side of the shoe. So what I did is I folded over the form that I liked and had done, and then folded another piece of fabric, same size and everything as the first one, pin it down so that it doesn't move, and then cut it out again with another about 1/8 inch seam, and then you're good to go.
And now at this point, we're essentially done with Starfire. I'm so excited about how well this came out. I can't even express. Thank you all so much for watching this whole thing kind of unravel the failures and the wonderful happy accidents. So please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you aren't already, and make sure to hit that little subscription bell you have there to make sure you can see all the videos we send out, because we are going to do one last Starfire video just kind of showing maybe the things that we've done behind the scenes, and also just to show the progression and the entire overview. And see what the final product looks like all put together. Only things left really are the final touches to do literally the day before the con. Cosplayers out there know damn well there's no escaping it. You do it last minute. So thanks so much again, and thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.